In 1925, a deadly virus called diphtheria broke out in a small town in Nome, Alaska, USA. This virus, highly lethal and specifically targeting children, claimed several lives in just a few days. However, the life-saving serum was 500 kilometers away in Nenana. At that time, Nome was hit by a storm of the century, halting flights and blocking roads. If the serum couldn't be delivered on time, all the children in the town faced a dire fate. Their only hope rested on traditional dog sleds. Leonard and his lead dog Togo might be the only ones capable of this mission. Yet, Leonard didn't immediately agree, knowing the peril of traveling thousands of kilometers back and forth through the storm without certainty. Upon returning home, Leonard was troubled, unable to stand by as the town's children succumbed to the disease. After wrestling with his conscience, he made the tough decision.
Got one more in you, pup.
His wife didn't obstruct him much, understanding her husband's nature. She only hoped Togo would ensure his safe return. As Leonard's sled team set off, the townspeople bid them farewell, their eyes filled with hope and trust, wishing for the hero's triumphant return. Despite knowing the high risks, Leonard was determined to fight for the children's lives. Beyond the town lay a dense fog and endless snowfields. They struggled over a snowy mountain, but the real challenge was yet to come. Descending the mountain, the dogs raced, pulling Leonard through complex terrain and harsh conditions, where he could barely see the path ahead, urging the dogs to slow down. Suddenly, Togo braked hard, turning back to frantically warn Leonard of the imminent danger, a sheer drop ahead. Realizing the peril, Leonard tried to slow down with a hook, but the steep slope and high speed made it impossible to stop. In desperation, he jumped from the sled, trying to anchor himself, but was thrown to the ground by the immense momentum. Miraculously, the sled team stopped at the edge of a cliff, but they were still at risk of falling into the abyss. Leonard shouted for Togo to change direction and climb upwards, relying solely on his trust in Togo. Hearing his master's call, Togo immediately turned and strained to pull upwards, with the other dogs, entangled by their leashes, eventually turning and following Togo's lead, pulling the sled to safety, allowing Leonard's tense emotions to ease. After the ordeal, Togo fervently licked Leonard's face, as if checking for injuries. However, Leonard noticed Togo's paws were injured and rushed to the first checkpoint for emergency treatment. The next day, they continued their journey, and to save time, Leonard decided to take a risky shortcut across the frozen strait. Due to the thin ice, cracks quickly formed around them, and the sound of the ice breaking made the dogs whimper in fear. Thankfully, Togo remained calm and led the team swiftly and orderly across the precarious ice. Leonard shouted each dog's name in encouragement, trusting in his team and Togo's leadership. Meanwhile, the sled team's heroic mission to retrieve the serum was publicized in Nome's newspapers, making Leonard a national focus. Everyone worried about his extreme conditions and the dangers he faced. 14 additional sled teams were dispatched from Nenana to relay the serum to Leonard, unaware that he had chosen to cross the strait directly. This meant the relay teams might miss Leonard, risking hundreds of extra kilometers in harsh conditions. The relay teams hurried to the checkpoints. However, they encountered a herd of deer along the way, leading the dogs off track into the mountains. With Leonard's fatigue from the continuous journey, he narrowly missed a relay team on the mountain. The relay team chased after him desperately, but their calls were lost in the howling wind. Just when hope seemed lost, Leonard emerged from the snow. Togo alerted Leonard, bringing them back together. Although Leonard received the serum early, he couldn't celebrate as the journey had exhausted all the dogs, especially Togo, who at 12 years old was in his twilight years. The return journey was still fraught with challenges and dangers. Leonard felt guilty and worried for his old companion. After a night's rest, they embarked on the return journey, again choosing to cross the strait to save time. Facing the endless snowstorm and ice, the dogs barked incessantly, sensing another life and death struggle. As they progressed, the ice began to crack extensively. Togo, the lead dog, understood his responsibility and his master's expectations, driven by a desire for victory. With Leonard's shouts and encouragement, he led the team across the treacherous ice, dodging the broken ice that resembled shattered mirrors, threatening to swallow them at any misstep. In this dire situation, Togo's decisions were crucial for the team's survival. Fortunately, his sharp instincts and bravery helped them navigate the cracks and escape death multiple times. Just as victory seemed within reach, they found themselves trapped on a floating ice floe. Leonard looked desperately towards the shore, realizing they had no way back. Decisively, he anchored the floe with steel spikes, then lifted Togo and threw him towards the shore, placing their last hope on him. Understanding his master's intentions, Togo strained to pull the floe, despite his advanced age and fatigue. Motivated by Leonard's encouragement and the dog's barking, Togo exerted his last bit of strength and slowly brought the floe to the shore. The dogs were released and rushed towards land. Leonard, mustering his strength, leapt to the shore, marking their successful return. At the station, Leonard rested for only a few hours before heading to the next station, 32 kilometers away. Out of concern for Togo, he placed him on the sled, but Togo, undeterred, returned to his leading position, fulfilling his duty and mission. Meanwhile, a sled team from Nome was dispatched to meet Leonard. As he entered a forest, the weather turned extremely harsh, with blinding snowstorms making visibility near zero. Once again, Leonard had to place his hope in Togo to lead them back.
I'm sorry. I can't help you. I can't see. We need to get to the next roadhouse. Take us to Big Joe. I know you can. I know you can. Good dog.
As the snow piled up and darkness fell, Leonard fell into a coma, while Togo continued to lead the exhausted team. After an unknown duration, Leonard gradually awoke to find the dogs lying motionless in the snow, completely drained. Leonard staggered towards Togo, calling his name in sorrow, but this time Togo didn't respond, plunging Leonard into deep grief. At that moment, a light appeared in the distance. Togo had used his last ounce of strength to fulfill his mission and bring his master safely to the station. In that moment, Leonard felt a mix of relief and sorrow as he carried Togo into the station, signaling that they could finally go home. Thanks to the relay at the station, the serum was successfully delivered and the children in the town were saved. The media interviewed the mushers and remembered the lead dog's name, promoting them as Nome's saviors. After a few days of rest, Leonard prepared to return home with the children, choosing to walk instead of sled, alongside his companions. At home, Leonard placed the barely alive Togo on his bed, allowing him into the bedroom for the first time, a small token compared to years of companionship and numerous rescues. The next morning, many people visited Leonard's home, expressing their respect and gratitude. Despite the media's oversight, the townspeople knew it was Leonard and Togo who saved their children. Leonard wasn't interested in fame or fortune, he just wished for Togo's swift recovery. With careful attention from Leonard and his wife, Togo eventually regained his spirit. Leonard resumed training the dogs, but Togo, eager to follow, was held back by Leonard's concern for his well-being, insisting he rest at home despite Togo's reluctance to retire. As Leonard walked away with the other dogs, Togo howled in protest, his indomitable spirit not ready to give up. Ignoring the pleas of Leonard's wife, Togo managed to escape the house and chased after Leonard's fading figure, determined to continue his adventures.